Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We got a great show for you today. We're going to talk a little bit about Lauri Markkanen getting his deal done. Finally, it's completed. We'll talk about what that's going to look like. The Warriors, their trade efforts now. We got to talk a little bit about Jamal Murray. Oh, Canada. What happened? We'll also talk about Team USA a bit, taking on Serbia tomorrow. A lot of stuff to get into. I'm Trevor Lane, joined by Keith Smith. Keith, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Back's feeling better today. If anybody's if you ever throw your back out, it's like horrible for a couple of days, and then there's a couple of days of just annoyance, and then you're fine again. So at least that's how it's been for me. So that's what I'm hopeful for this time around again, and that's where we're at. But yeah, man, I was excited. It was funny. I was thinking about Markkanen, and I was like, "Do you think they were yesterday?" They like called him, and he was like, "Sorry, you what?" What's that? No, what? Or like, I'm heading into the forests of Finland. No service for one day. I'll get back to you tomorrow. Kind of thing. So I think we're, to nobody's surprise, right? He said he wasn't going to do it yesterday, and
Right.
he didn't, but he did it today, and it's done. And interesting deal, the way it came in. But what did we say? 5 years, 238 million total.
Yeah.
For Markkanen. So ups his salary to about 42-ish and change this year, about 24 million more than what he was going to make. Otherwise, upped himself to the max. Then he's set right now for the 30% max for next year at about 46.4. Then this was what was interesting. His deal actually takes a little bit of a dip. It dips down to 46.1 million. Then at first I was like, well, why would they do that? Then I started looking at it. The only other salaries on the Jazz books that year are rookie scale salaries. So they were really in a spot where it's like, yeah, we're guessing that was intentional to try to build up their cap space. They can get to about 75 to 80 million in cap space that year. Conservatively right now, because obviously that's a couple years out. We don't know what else they'll do contract wise. Then it jumps up to 49.8 million and then ends at 53.5 million. For anybody wondering, these will be updated on Spot Track. Maybe by the time you listen to this, it'll be done a little bit later today. The guy who does most of the updating work is out of the office today until this evening, but he'll get to it eventually. So, but there it is, Markkanen deal done.
So I would imagine, as you said, maybe Markkanen was doing the whole bad cell service in terms of, and just to clarify, friend, if you've been watching the show, you probably know what we're talking about. But just in case this is your first time watching the show, first of all, welcome in. Hit the subscribe button. Do that for us too. Everybody hit the like button. But the way it would have worked is had Markkanen signed his deal yesterday, he would have been trade eligible for about a day before the NBA's trade deadline. By just waiting to sign it today, it means he can't be traded all season. So it gives him that certainty now. I would imagine he was maybe doing the Tony Stark, the I don't like to be handed things, as they were trying to deliver the contract to him. But in any event, it's done.
Right.
Exactly. So he's off the market now, which is going to obviously, there could be some domino effects around the trade market, and we'll discuss that. He won't be going to the Golden State Warriors or anywhere else. The Jazz are going to stick with him. And Keith, to me, this always, we talked about it a bit yesterday, this was a win-win-win situation for the Utah Jazz. I think he's worth that contract. I think he's very good. I think some of the lack of recognition for how good he is has to do with the market that he's in right now. The fact that he's in Utah, he's on a team that wasn't very good. He's an extremely good player, very, very efficient in what he does. And I think this is going to be a good salary here for the Jazz moving forward. The question then becomes, though, because he's not 23, are they able to build a winner around him while he is still able to be kind of this guy? That's going to be now the question for the Jazz. How do they respond from here? But I look at this and think, you know what? Even if they completely fall on their faces and this doesn't work, and Markkanen says, you know what? I don't change my mind completely, he'll have trade value next summer and into the future. Yep. So to me, this is a great deal for Utah.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple people have asked me since it became clear he wasn't going to sign. It is just a 6-month restriction. So technically he's trade eligible on February 7th. That's the day after the trade deadline. So he'd be trade eligible whenever Utah's season ends. So if they wanted to, and they wanted Markkanen was like, yeah, this didn't go the way I wanted, or the Jazz were like, yeah, we want to move him in a draft day trade next year or a free agency trade next year. Yeah, no worries with that. This is not one of those deals that comes with a 1 year trade restriction. It's just 6 months. It just happens to be that 6 months took us past the trade deadline. So that's when we say he's not trade eligible this year. And we'll probably say that 10 more times at least over the course of as we get into trade deadline preview stuff and all that. That's what we mean when we say this year. We mean functionally this regular season. Right. He's not trade eligible. So, yeah, and I'm with you on the tradability of the contract. I think it's fine. It works out to be 30%, and then like between 25 and 28% each of the outer years. So really not bad at all. I think that's, the numbers are big. Don't get me wrong. I get it. We're talking roughly 50 million in average money on those outer years. So I fully understand that the numbers are big, but when you really start looking at it, really not a bad contract when you look at it in percentage of the cap, which that's going to be something we're going to continue to hammer home because these numbers are going to continue to look like they're just made up monopoly money numbers somewhere. As percentage of the cap wise goes, it's less than the 30% max, which is good stuff for the Jazz.
So this is where, and obviously we'll be a little bit biased in this, I suppose, but this is where you go over to Spot Track and you look, you look next to the numbers. This is where if you feel yourself hyperventilating or getting angry, perhaps hulking out over the numbers that you're hearing when you hear like 50 million and things of that nature, go over to Spot Track and look at the percentage of the cap. That's the way to provide context to the number. Is $50 million still a lot of money? Of course it is. Would my setup here be much different if I had $50 million? Absolutely. I would be on a beach.
I'd be right next to you if you had 50
Yeah, we would be in a studio with an ocean view. We would be in some tropical place, some paradise, and it will be the front office show coming to you courtesy of Terramana Tequila or something like that, because we would have a nice drink going as well. But that's, look, $50 million is still a lot of money, but this gives you the context of what it actually is in the NBA relative to the cap. And so that's the important number. As the TV deals coming in, as the money, as the overall revenue and everything is going up, this gives you a better idea of what the number actually means in terms of building out the roster. People may want to quibble over, should an athlete get $60 million on a contract or whatever? And that's still real money that they're getting. But for most fans, the more important thing is, how does this deal impact the team's ability to build out the rest of their roster? And that's where the percentage of the cap number is everything.
Yep. Do me a favor on the screen there. Go to the Celtics page and pull up like Jason Tatum. Like we can center him in there. The only reason, I mean, yes, but the only reason I'm calling this out is, so if you look at Tatum, keep scrolling over so we can see his full extension. So we know next year starts at 35%.
Right.
But that 71.5 million in 29-30, that's already down to 31.6% of the cap, because the cap is projected to grow 10% year over year. The raises in a contract are limited to 8%. And we always say 8% raises, and we'll always do that because it's easy, but they are 8% non-compounding. And what that means for anybody wondering is it's 8% off of the first year. So like Tatum jumps from 54.1 to 58.5. So roughly 4.4 million. Then that's the number it goes up each subsequent years, roughly that amount of money, that $4.4 million is what it'll go up each subsequent year. It does not go up 8% every single year. They're non-compounding raises. So there's your banking and finance for the day as well here. But why I like to use Tatum's is because he got the full 35%. It is currently the biggest contract in NBA history. But just to demonstrate, it goes down as a percent of the cap each year, because cap growth is projected to well outpace, at least for the next several years, the the salary growth on these max contracts. And then that's his. Anybody who makes even less than that, it's going to be even more so that it goes down. So just a sense of, what that may look like for people as they maybe panic a little bit about the size of these numbers. And yeah, I mean, that doesn't even look like real money, right? 54 million to 71 million. That's like, okay, sure. Great. Well, why not $1 trillion billion D? Like, okay, sure.
11D.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago. 71 million was the salary cap.
The whole thing. Yeah.
Right.
It was the whole salary cap. Or it was like, that was your full 5-year max, like extension.
I'm old enough to remember when.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You know what's funny about all this? It's that this is the biggest contract in NBA history until the next guy signs. Right? Like that's the way people getting upset. Oh my gosh, how is Jordan Love making this much money in the NFL when Patrick Mahomes is making this? Well, yeah, he's making that until the next guy gets his deal, right? I mean, it's almost like it's just there for the sake of a tantalizing headline. Biggest contract in NBA history, biggest contract in NFL history, or whatever. Technically, yes, it's right, but we all know it's not going to be right for very long because the next year somebody else is going to get a deal, and then that's going to be the biggest contract, and off we go. The more important, I think, the more accurate way to look at it is that percentage of the cap number.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why. Again, that's why. I mean, I always like looking at anything to do with Jason Tatum. Anyway, makes me happy, makes me smile, especially that it's still on the Celtics cap sheet there. But that's why I wanted to do it. Was just I think it's very illustrative of what that looks like with that. You want to do. You don't need to hit the breaking news drop. I don't want people to get upset, but Malachi Flynn has agreed to a 1-year deal with the Spurs. So,
all right.
Minimum deal. He of the 50-point game, Malachi Flynn, last year.
Right.
So maybe the most unexpected 50-point game in NBA history. I personally think it is. But yeah, he's headed to the Spurs. My guess is this is either fully non-guaranteed or very lightly partially guaranteed. Chance to come in, compete for a spot on the Spurs roster is currently full. So he's going to have to work his way onto the roster.
That's exciting news for Malachi though, to find that landing spot again. 50-point game, unreal, crazy stuff for him.
Yeah, big time.
All right, let's jump over to
50 more points in one game than I'll ever score in the NBA.
Oh, absolutely, definitely more than me. There was this thing going around, Keith, on Threads. Actually, it was on Threads, and I think it was YouTube's account on Threads asked what's your greatest athletic achievement? You know what I put in there? I said, and this is the truth, the God's honest truth. One time, I was able to, with just the tip of my finger, touch the bottom of the rim. Not the top of the rim, not the side of the rim, just barely, the underside of the rim on a basketball hoop. One time, I got up there and got that. That was the height of my athletic prowess.
Mine was, believe it or not, I could actually get up and barely, I couldn't hang and hold, but I could get up there to grab the rim. Back in the day, I could actually get up. I could jump a little bit, but I couldn't nowhere close to dunking or anything. And I will tell you, I tried for hours with a tennis ball and everything else, but I could never even get a tennis ball over the rim to do it. But I could get up there and just lightly grab it, and never even in any time I tried to hang, I ended up on my back, wiped out on my back. But yeah, because it was a big deal when I realized I could slap the backboard on a layup.
Oh yeah,
it was a huge deal back in the day.
I remember when that was all the rage. That was the thing to do too.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know what my true greatest athletic accomplishment would be. I hit a half court buzzer beater once.
Okay.
That's pretty solid. And and we jumped around, and it ended up in the end of the year montage to Green Day's "Time of Your Life." That song was awesome. It was in that montage because I hit it, and then everybody poured out of the stands, and we jumped on each other and everything. So yeah,
such a cool moment. And I'm sure it all happened in slow motion too. It's the way to do it.
Yeah, that was. And I was not. I mean, that was. Yeah, that's got to be it because I was not very good. So we'll call it that and move on.
All right. Before I start reliving the glory days, and start to
4
go down memory
touchdowns
lane
for
here.
Kokai.
Yeah, yeah. The Warriors apparently have no interest in trading for Brandon Ingram. So we talked about this, or Zach LaVine. We talked about that. Now that Markkanen's off the board, this may turn into other players that are behind Markkanen in terms of quality that now start to generate interest. And Brandon Ingram, we talked about him yesterday, potentially winding up with Utah. Shams Charania said there's a very limited market for Brandon Ingram, and it's expected that he'll probably be back with the Pelicans. We've talked about why. He wants a big contract. He doesn't play a lot of games. He gets hurt a lot. He's a talented player, but he only has 1 year left on his deal. And so teams don't want to surrender assets plus have to pay him what he wants on his next contract. So that is definitely dampened the market for him. And then Zach LaVine, we know there is no market for him because of how big his salary is. And again, injury issues as well. So I don't think the Warriors are necessarily going to be out on it wouldn't shock me if we start hearing Warriors interested in player X or something like that after Markkanen. Just doesn't sound like it's going to be Brandon Ingram or Zach LaVine for them.
Yeah, and I'm guessing this is the way I'm kind of reading this a little bit is the Warriors they're going to go into camp with the team that they have for right now.
Probably.
Maybe something comes back around their way, but for right now, they're pretty content. They were in on Markkanen because it felt like that was, in a lot of ways, almost a perfect fit for what they needed. And if they can't get him, all right, we'll just go with the guys we have for now. And we'll see. Do they sign Kuminga or Moody 2 extensions? That would be a little bit more interesting. Then they become obviously far harder to trade because that's where they would get the poison pill in there, and that would make it very hard to match salary. So you'd rather trade them before doing that than after. So we'll see how that kind of comes together for them with those two guys, because those seem to be the guys that I don't even want to say that they're interested in trading, but maybe more interested in moving. So yeah, we'll see how that all kind of comes together here. But for right now, I think the Warriors are pretty well set, and I think that's okay. I think they've had a pretty productive offseason considering you lost Klay Thompson and everything he meant. Bouncing back with Kyle Anderson, DeAnthony Melton, and Buddy Hield, that's pretty good. Like they could use one more real player with size, but that's not the direction they seemingly want to go. So I'm okay with what their roster looks like right now.
Yeah. And then I think they will have some flexibility come trade deadline if they are looking at the way things are currently sitting in the Western Conference or on their team in general. They feel like the chemistry is not there. Then maybe they make some moves. But Brandon Ingram, Zach LaVine, not gonna be it for Golden State. Warriors fans were not thrilled with the way all the marketing and stuff played out. There's a lot of back and forth. They kind of got excited about that, but it's the way it goes.
Yeah, I saw a lot of Mike Dunleavy Jr.'s ruining the end of Steph's career and all this stuff. And here's something that I repeat again, and I'm gonna say this early for Celtics fans, and I'm sure you're starting to feel a little bit this way, at least for the Lakers right now. Generally doesn't end well. It usually ends badly because, well, what do they always say? If it was going to end well, it probably wouldn't end, right? It would probably just keep going. And usually, unfortunately, these teams have to get kind of hit over the head with a hammer to be told, hey, this isn't working anymore and it's over. Like, let's move on. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to go same way for Boston at some point in time. All you hope is it's like the Warriors where, hey, we won a whole bunch of titles. Like, we'll always have that. And you just kind of come out on the other side with it. So, but yeah, it's we're close to the end with the Warriors. That's I guess where I'm going with that.
Nothing lasts forever.
Nope.
Oh no. I just accidentally put November Rain into my head when I said that.
Man.
Oh no. Guns N' Roses. Jamal Murray, not good for Team Canada in the Olympics. Apparently all you have to do is put a Lakers jersey on the team across from him, and then he's otherworldly. That was the problem with Jamal Murray in the Olympics. But man, Keith, I'll tell you what, even Lakers jokes aside, he looked like he lacked confidence to me when I saw him on the floor for Canada. Like he looked unsure of his role, unsure of where his shots were going to be coming from, his movements, his actions. There was just he's a guy who he looks very comfortable typically on the floor. He pulls into shots. You could just, the body language is just, he exudes confidence. He believes all of his shots are going to go in. You didn't have that sense. He looked, dare I say, timid, hesitant for Team Canada. What is going? Is it just he didn't have Jokic, or what happened to Jamal Murray in the Olympics?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if this was like a year or two ago, I would say, well, he's coming back from injury. He's maybe not fully where he needs to be, but he's not. And I get like they were being very cautious with him and the ramp up to the Olympics and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just in a weird spot with Jamal Murray where it is, why? Why were we so cautious with him? This guy, he played all of last season. I know he missed some time, but he played through last year, played into the playoffs, didn't miss any time in the playoffs. Like, I get it if you're like, hey, can you not run him 38 minutes a game all summer long and play every exhibition under the sun? Like, fine, I fully get that. But like, it seemed like they were acting like he was coming off a major injury, and he really wasn't. And he really, really struggled. I think, oh yeah, you're pulling it up here.
Yeah. I mean, look at
5
this.
points per game. Yeah.
Yeah, he had 6 by the time the dust settled, 6 points per game, 2.3 turnovers to 3.8 assists. That's a lot of turnovers per assist there. 14% from 3. 14%
shorter line. Yeah.
29% from the field. Now it's a 4-game sample size here. We're just pulling from their Olympic games, but still, this was shocking to see how poorly he performed with this, especially when you look up and you see SGA 21 points on 54% shooting from the field, 4.3 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean, he did what SGA does, right?
Yeah, he was
RJ Barrett.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, RJ Barrett, 20 points, 44% from 3. Like RJ Barrett did RJ Barrett things. Dylan Brooks did not shoot well in their final game, but shot 46% from 3. Like, he did kind of Dylan Brooks things, right? But Jamal Murray, he looked like a shell of himself. And so I hopefully for Denver, who've already had, I think, a rough offseason losing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, hopefully this is not a sign of things to come. I wouldn't predict that it is, but you got to at least be a little bit worried after seeing this, because I was not expecting this out of Jamal Murray.
So that's where I wanted to go with this. So, all right, you could just throw away the Olympics if you wanted to, and that's fine. You could say it's 4 games, weird situation, not playing with Jokic, playing with another ball dominant guard and a bunch of wings who wanted to shoot the ball too. Odd situation, right? And I would be perfectly willing to say, sure, no problem. Here's the issue. Last year in the playoffs, Jamal Murray, now he averaged 20.6 points per game, but he averaged less rebounds and less assists than when they made it to the NBA Finals and won the title the year before. And I know for Lakers fans, they're going to be like, yeah, right, he made every shot against us.
He did.
Even though it may have felt that way,
it did.
He did not. He did not shoot well in that series until the final game. This was his shooting lines in the first 4 games: 9 of 24, 9 of 24, 8 of 21, 9 of 23. And then it was that final game he went 13 of 28 and 5 of 10 from 3. Now he made all the big shots. Like, I get that part of it. But overall in the playoffs, then it got only very little bit better against Minnesota. Now he put points up in like game 7. He had 35 points, 48% shooting in that game, really played well. He had 24 points in another game, but he had a game where he scored 8 points on 3 of 18 shooting, had a game 6, 10 points on 4 of 18 shooting. For the playoffs as a whole last year, in 12 games, he hit only 40% of his shots and 31.5% from 3. So now our last 2 tastes of Jamal Murray are really poor playoffs and then a really poor summer in the Olympics. If I'm the Denver Nuggets, there was all this, it was weird, right? That they were like, yeah, go focus on the Olympics. Why would Jamal Murray be like, hey, wait a minute, I've already gotten hurt majorly once. Let's lock in my extension, then I'll go focus on the Olympics. I wonder if the Nuggets are like, hey, we don't know about a full max. We don't know if we want to go there. Let's have a conversation about that. And maybe that's what's held things up. I'm not reporting that. I don't know that to be true. Maybe I'm imagining things, and it really is as simple as, hey, go play. We'll sign your max when you get back. But I got to wonder if the Nuggets are wondering, man, we're going to have him on a max, Jokic on a max. That one's a no-brainer, obviously.
Sure.
We're going to have MPJ on a max. We're going to have Aaron Gordon needs a new big contract extension here pretty soon. We're already, at least to some extent, like, not super thrilled with where our cap sheet was anyway. We let Kentavious Caldwell-Pope go. What is that going to look like for the Nuggets? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's just, you're starting to lock into an awful lot of money if you drop another 40 to 50 million on Jamal Murray on his next contract too.
And this is, I think, we've spent a lot of time talking about the repercussions of the new collective bargaining agreement. I think this is one of them, where we used to be in an NBA where, and this was to the ire of some fans, even though you and I both cautioned many times that not all maxes are the same, but you would hear player X, Y, and Z all get max contracts. This guy gets guys a fringe all-star, max contract, right? I don't think you can do that anymore. I think now, in terms of roster building in the NBA, with obviously some exceptions, like the Celtics are going to pay to keep their team together because they just won. That's
Sure.
the way it's going to work. But in general, I think now you can have maybe 2 maxes on a team, and those 2 maxes have to be top tier, clear cut. These are true max level players, not just they're really good guys that we don't want to lose for nothing. And that's part of, going back into the Brandon Ingram conversation. Part of the thing is I look at Brandon Ingram and think, well, he wants this big near, max or very, very near max contract. But realistically, if you want to contend, he probably needs to be like your third best player. And you probably, under the new CBA, you probably can't give your third best player a max contract. And so that's part of the reason why Ingram is still with the Pelicans. Maybe we start to approach that territory with Jamal Murray, where it's like, look, if you want a max, we're going to have to sacrifice some of the depth. And he's not of that level, or perhaps, based on what we're seeing now this summer, where you can say, hey, as long as we have Jokic and Murray, we're good. If it was a prime LeBron, say, and Jokic, you could go, oh, of course, give them a max. Who cares who's around them, right? We can make this work, and off we go. Hand out the max, hand out a third max to somebody, we'll still be okay. I don't know if Murray's the kind of guy that can carry a team that way, particularly if what we're seeing from it with Team Canada, even if this is a once every 10 games, he has that kind of performance, or he goes through a stretch of 2 weeks where he plays like this. I don't know if you can do it and have the kind of success that you need. So I don't know what Denver does here, but it's an interesting thought that you bring up there, Keith.
Well, and let's add to it. What happens if you max him out and Jokic ever does have that season where he misses 50 games? Yeah. Can Murray be the guy? Up until this past spring, I would have said, yeah, no brainer. Jamal Murray gets the max, move on. Like, what are we even having the conversation about? Right. I would have even said, does Jamal Murray say, hold on, let me see if I can get that one more year and qualify for the designated veteran player maximum, or the designated veteran contract. Let me see if I can get there through that by playing great in this final season of this deal. Now we're in a spot where, at least to me, you at least need to ask the question. Somebody in Denver needs to be sitting down with Calvin Booth saying, are we sure? Are we really certain we want to give him this 30% max and move forward this way? And if the answer is yes, okay. But just know, if then that means you lose Aaron Gordon next, because we probably can't give Aaron Gordon $30 million a year in an extension. Well, then that's the decision you've made. Right now we're starting to chip away at that depth. And I look at it as, to your point about max contracts and all that, the Clippers to me were so insightful this year, with, as far as, not necessarily the Clippers themselves were insightful, but insightful into the process of roster building. Mm-hmm. Lawrence Frank came out and said it. It was not about the money, because if it was just spend whatever you wanted, like it had been forever, Paul George would still be a Clipper. They would have maxed them out and they would have just kept going, and probably would have kept paying a whole bunch of other guys too. It was all the restrictions that get put on you when you're that expensive that they looked at it and said, we just can't do it. He's not the guy to do this for. Let's go in a different direction. And that's where, you have to really be certain. And my big thing now with max players, you need to have the 25% of the cap max. That's a little different, because to me, you're still, that's a lot more about projecting guys and you hope they'll get there and all that stuff.
Mhm.
That's why Windhorse calls it the fun max, right? Because you're not
I
super
like
stressed. Calls the other one the stress max. If you're doing the 30 or 35% maxes, the two questions I'm going to have is this guy awesome? Like, can he carry our team if other guys are out? And the answer better be yes. And then the next question I'm going to ask is he going to play 75% of our games or more every season? Because if they're not, you're going to run into trouble. I mean, let's look at your Lakers, for example. If LeBron and AD miss time, that's probably it, right? It's probably
sure.
that ship is sunk and it's over. And, forget chasing any kind
And
of real,
party in Atlanta.
playoff. Yeah, right. Yeah. It's a mess. So like, that's where, like, I look at it as saying, you have to be able to answer those two questions for me. If I'm not a really 100% yes on both of those, it's going to be a little bit harder. But if I'm not 100% yes on both of them, then I'm not doing a max deal. And I'm just not, I don't know that I'm 100% on Jamal Murray on both of those questions.
I think that's fair. I think there's reason to question that, and we'll see ultimately if this deal gets done or not. By the way, you mentioned some of these deals over the summer. I do have a video coming out. In fact, right after I finish recording this show, I'm going to post this video to the Basketball Bulletin that's on the biggest losers of the NBA offseason, and some of the players that we or some of the teams we've been talking about might just make an appearance over there. So check that out, guys. I'll put the link in the description down below. All right, let's jump over here. Joel Embiid, ankle soreness. I would imagine this is why we didn't see him in the second half of the U.S.'s blowout over Brazil. This is not good timing because now you're taking on Serbia again. I thought this was the most important matchup to have Joel Embiid for, simply to have as many bigs as possible to throw at Nikola Jokic, who I'd imagine probably not going to come out of the game when the U.S. takes on Serbia tomorrow in the quarterfinals of the Olympics.
Or very little.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he comes out a couple of minutes tops.
Yeah.
How big of a deal is this? Do we think? I mean, Embiid was actually, I thought he had his best performance, at least offensively, against Brazil. Brazil was sagging off of him, and he just went, "Oh, well, you guys know I can shoot threes, right?" And and he just bombed away and knocked them all down. But Joel Embiid ankle soreness, how big of a deal do you think this is going to be for Team USA tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm very curious to see. Now, is this, hey, it's a little sore, but we don't need you anymore. This game's over, sit. Or is it, yeah, I can gut through it if I need to. Like, that's what we're going to find out, I'm sure. Whoever is in Paris from the Sixers right now is probably, how's it feeling? How's it feeling? How's it feeling? Because they clearly, you do not need him picking up something that is going to carry into the season. And we're close enough now that even like a semi-serious injury could have you behind the eight ball when training camp starts. So that's probably not where you want to be. So I think, for Joel Embiid, it really becomes a question of, all right, where are we going? My guess is it was probably the first part of that, right? It was just, I'm feeling a little something, and it was, sit. We need you next, right? We need you later. Whether it's going to be Serbia next up or down the line. At that point, is it going to be France or Germany? Who's it going to be? We're going to need you in those games. Sit now. We don't need you to beat Brazil. And guess what? They didn't, and they rolled through it. So, but yeah, I mean, these are the ones where you got them to play for you for, right? So let's hope he's okay and he's able to get out there and go. And I'm with you. I've been asked, is there any way Serbia can beat them? They almost beat them earlier in the lead up. And my thing is, I'm like, I hope by now we've seen those exhibition games. They were just trying stuff, right? They were just figuring stuff out.
Messing around.
Can Serbia beat the United States? Absolutely, they can. Will they? I don't think they will. It's going to take Jokic being an absolute destroyer of worlds, and then you need two other guys to step up and be awesome too. And that's what I worry about. Can Jokic play 38 or 40 minutes? Like because he's going to have to be out there almost the whole time. Otherwise, they're just not going to be able to get it done. Because it was the stat, if I have this right, they were even in the group stage game. They were even with Jokic on the floor. When he was off the floor, they got blown out. So let's see, how that goes the rest of the way.
As of this moment, and this obviously shifts quite a bit, but Team USA is a 16.5 point favorite over Serbia tomorrow. So
yeah, it feels about
we'll
right.
see. Yeah, I was going to say that seems about right to me as well. I will be live over on Playback as well as the Lakers Nation YouTube channel. Keith, if you wind up jumping on with me, of course, we'll stream it over here on Front Office Show as well for U.S. versus Serbia. But yeah, we'll hang out.
Unfortunately, I will be in the car because it is the first day of school tomorrow
Oh,
here. So I'll be doing school pickup and I'll be, let's just say I'll be have my attention split. Not enough so that it'll be dangerously driving, but
stream from the car. It's totally safe. It'll be fine.
Yeah. We get one of those things that hooks on the vent.
There you go.
Yeah. That's
off you go.
Billy can tell me when it's time to stop. Like
it'll be fine.
Hey, it's almost a red light. Stop. Car does it anyway now. I mean, we have a new car. It basically
they drive themselves.
So
you don't have to worry about it. Yeah. All right. Let's finish up with this. Luke Travers apparently coming over to the NBA. I'll be honest, Keith, if you told me this name ahead of time, I would have thought this was a country music star.
Oh, it could be.
that would have been my guess. He sounds like it. The name sounds like it. So my knowledge of his game is limited. I apologize. I didn't know know your game.
The only reason I wanted to bring this up is because I know Cavs fans are pretty excited. They've been waiting on him for a couple years now. He's drafted in the second round. A couple years ago, he played for Perth in Australia to begin his career. He's played for Melbourne last year.
He does look like
he does look a little bit like the country star, right? Yeah.
He really I'm going to put a picture of him up.
He has played pretty well last year for Melbourne. He really came along as a shooter and scorer. So I get why they're pretty excited about him coming over. He can do a lot of different things. He's like a lot of Australian players where he can handle the ball a little bit, pass a little bit, probably drive a pickup truck through the mud pretty good with his dog. He sings about his ex-girlfriend stealing his record collection. So but yeah, man, it's always fun when you have a draft and stash guy, and then it's like, wait, he's actually coming. Like we've waited this long, and he had a mutual out with Melbourne. Melbourne decided, hey, we're good. We're going to just cut it free, go pursue. Part of the other reason I wanted to bring this up, Cavs are still sitting on right now 3 open standard roster spots and 3 open two-way spots. They've not re-signed any of their two-way guys from last year. Presumably they will, probably Amani Bates at the very least. Will be back because he played pretty well, but they've got open roster spots. So it seems like one of them, whether it's a two-way or a standard, I'm going to guess the standard is going to Luke Travers, and he'll be in the NBA this coming season.
All right. Well, that's another addition then for the Cavs, and somebody that I'm going to put on my list to go do a little bit of research on.
Yeah, I think you'll like him. He played in Summer League last year too, so you can look that up. He's played in the last 3 Summer Leagues for Cleveland as well, and played pretty well in those. He's not going to be the kind of guy who's like, you're going to be like, holy crap, like this guy's going to be an all-NBA guy. But I think you'll watch his game and be like, okay, I kind of get it. He's a lot like, kind of like how Joe Ingles plays, kind of like how Josh Giddey plays, can handle a little bit, pass it a little bit, shoot it a little bit, can do a lot of different things. Got pretty good size, about 6'7". I think could be, with time, maybe a legit rotation player in Cleveland.
All right. So somebody to keep an eye on there. Everybody, I think that wraps things up for today. Wednesday, but I've spent all day thinking it's Thursday. And it was only about an hour right before we came out here that I went, oh my God, it's Wednesday. It's been one of those kind of days, but I appreciate everybody for coming by and hanging out with us. And make sure you do subscribe, turn on those notifications. Let's go USA, get that win over Serbia tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.